What if I told you the incurable disease comes with a $30 billion price tag? In 2025, Big Pharma alone brought in over $30 billion with MS drugs. Think about all the other diseases out there. Big Pharma is a multi-billion dollar industry. The average MS patient is handed a bill for over $100,000. And of course, the patient isn't paying that. They're paying their deductible. Their insurance company is paying that. And who's paying for the insurance company? We all are. And this is why our insurance is so expensive. And this is for the synthetic drugs that come with a long list of side effects. And today we're going to pull back the curtain and find out why your neurologist spent a minimum of 4 years in medical school and didn't hardly get any education on diet and lifestyle. It's so interesting to me that they get very little education on diet when diet and lifestyle fuels our cells, and getting the right nutrition into our body helps us stay healthy and helps us heal. In today's society, we are driving a toxic load, and this is anything from the foods we eat, from the heavy metals in our body, from the sedentary lifestyle that we're living, from the EMFs that we're getting, and viruses like parasites and the Epstein-Barr virus. These are some of the toxins that we have when we're overloaded with MS. And it's so funny because you'll Google cause of MS unknown. Well, I know the causes, and it's so funny because I didn't go to medical school. I figured it out on my own due to all my own research and figuring out what I had to do to heal my own body. And people are doing this. And by the way, my name's Adrienne Charlie. I'm a nutritionist. I'm a certified MS integrative health coach, author, and speaker. If you're interested in working with me, I have a 12-week program that helps people reverse their MS. And this is a fun program. People get to start learning how to make delicious, holistic foods to start turning their diagnosis around. And then they learn about different holistic lifestyle habits that they start practicing to get back to where they used to be. We are not meant to be sick, and we're not meant to be on long-term drugs. Now, I want to be clear here. I am not against all drugs. I'm against long-term drugs. These drugs do more damage to our bodies than we realize. And the doctors are trained to push these drugs on you, and that's because Big Pharma teaches the doctors how to do this. So the doctors are trained to manage the symptoms, not heal the person, to manage through big pharmacology. And they aren't taught to look at the check engine light, which is your symptom. They're taught how to unplug the bulb, which is the pharmaceutical drug. This is all they know how to do. When we look at the missing pieces, traditional neurology, they're not getting to the root of the problem. Most doctors are prescribing the drugs to put a Band-Aid on the problem. And this isn't helping because these symptoms are eventually going to come out again. And these pharmaceutical drugs, and we are not built to take these drugs long term. And then doctors also rarely investigate our past traumas, our heavy metals that we might have in our bodies, or other toxic environments that we've been exposed to. And these act as the on switch for our autoimmune symptoms to come out. So the average cost of these disease-modifying pharmaceutical drugs cause anybody in the MS world $57,000 to $100,000. Who can afford that? Really, who can afford that? Our insurance companies are paying these out. And I want to tell you something else. 57% of all the medical doctors out there are receiving money from these pharmaceutical companies. And this is outside their typical income from their doctor's pay. So what's happening is because the pharmaceuticals want the doctors to prescribe the drugs, the doctors are getting direct money payments from these pharmaceutical companies. So I want to tell you a quick story. When I was diagnosed with MS, I was put on a steroid drip right away. And the whole point of that, and I know steroids help with some people, but the whole point was this drug to reduce the inflammation behind my left eye because this is where I had my blind spot. And this drug did the opposite for me. I ended up with a horrific migraine headache. And then after about a week, all my other MS symptoms came out. So I had numbness in my hands and my legs. I had severe fatigue. I had brain fog. At one point, I had vertigo. I had sign, and that's when you tilt your head forward and you get this kind of electric numbing or shock throughout your body. It's a very odd feeling. And I was a mess. I had this major migraine headache, and I found out later this migraine headache and my other symptoms that came out were due to me being on this steroid drug. And this headache stayed around for about 30 days. And you typically hear that a drug or something you put in your body will stay around in your body for about 30 days. So I knew that that migraine headache was my body rebelling against what was going into my body. And it was saying, hey, I don't like this, so I'm going to give you a symptom. And it was awful. But while I was getting that drip, there was a really nice nurse coming around and giving people IVs for different neurological issues, right? So as I was getting this infusion, this nurse came up to me and she said, Adrienne, I have MS too, and I want to give you this flyer because your doctor, Dr. Tammy Miller, is giving a talk in town at a restaurant, and I think you should go if you want to learn more about the disease. And I thought, oh, yeah, this is when I was naive. I said, oh, yeah, I want to learn as much as I can about MS. Thank you so much. So my husband and I went that weekend. It was a Saturday. And we went to this nice restaurant in Fort Collins, Colorado. That's where I live. And a room was rented out. And there were 9 or 10 different tables that had white tablecloths on them. And there was a projector on one end. And my neurologist was giving the presentation at that side. And then all of us were given all these different free appetizers, of course, things we should not be eating, like bread, calamari, fried foods, all these appetizers that were delicious, of course, but not really healthy. And we're given lemonade, iced tea. People came in with wheelchairs, canes, what you can expect when somebody's giving a talk about MS. So my neurologist, Dr. Tammy Miller, she was up at the head of the room and she started the presentation. There was a nice looking gentleman in a suit standing next to her. And she started talking with this projector. And there's a screen, and she was talking all about MS and all about the disease. And the second half of the presentation, she talked about one drug. And this was a red flag for me. My husband was sitting next to me, and I looked at him. I said, well, why would she just talk about one drug when I know there's at least 4 or 5 on the market? And I just remember leaving thinking, this is really odd. Why would she just talk about one drug? Okay, so I learned later that doctors are getting paid for doing presentations like this. Who knows? I don't know. She might have gotten $5,000 for giving that presentation for that one drug company. And this is what's happening out there. I want people to start opening their eyes. Big pharma is getting rich on our illnesses. And again, I want to tell you, I'm not against all drugs. I mean, we do need some life-saving drugs here and there once in a while. And we need an aspirin or maybe a Tylenol once in a while for pain relievers. And of course, we need anesthesiologists to help us go under when we need surgeries. These are the type of drugs that are, I believe in. But to be on long-term drugs for life, this is not what our bodies were built for. We can heal with diet and lifestyle, and most of us don't know this. And this is what I'm here to preach, is to keep promoting that we can heal with diet and lifestyle. It's absolutely true because I've done it. And I know many other people who have done it, and I help my clients do it too. We just need to change our habits. That's all. But it takes a little bit longer for especially those who have mobility issues, because think about how long it took you to get to that point. And it's unfortunate because people don't realize what they could have done different when they were starting to lose their mobility. But that's okay. People are healing out of wheelchairs. They're just taking a little bit longer than another person who might not have mobility issues at all. So I want to talk about the side effects. So Ocrevus is one of the drugs that is gaining popularity. And when you have a side effect, it's your body's voice telling you that it doesn't like what you're putting into its system. Our bodies are designed with high intelligence. And that gets me back to looking at our root causes. Let's look at our toxic load. Let's look at our gut health. What are we eating? Let's look at the inflammatory foods. This is gluten, dairy, processed foods, sugars, trans fats, and then look at the hidden infections like the Epstein-Barr virus or parasites or candida. But we can treat all of these things. And then let's look at our environmental toxins like mold or heavy metals within our bodies. Again, we can treat these things. And then let's look at our emotional weight. These are unresolved traumas or relationships that are toxic. We can fix all of these things. I want to go back to my doctor again, Dr. Tammy Miller. And I haven't seen her since I got that infusion, because shortly after that, I figured out how I can heal my body holistically. And I feel like I was lucky that I got this information pretty quickly when a lot of us don't. And so, again, my neurologist, Dr. Tammy Miller, she received over $800,000 from these drug companies in 2024. She retired in 2025, and you can see why, because she made millions of dollars from these drug companies. So how can these doctors know, even if they did know about diet and lifestyle, they want to keep pushing the drugs because they're getting paid by these pharmaceutical companies? How can they have a honest and goodwill type of advice towards us when they're getting paid under the table? And they're not getting paid under the table. Let me rephrase that. They do have to disclose this. And if you go to the website, it's called openpaymentsdata.cms.gov. And I'll have this in the show notes. You can put in your doctor or neurologist's name, and you'll find out whether your doctor is getting paid through these pharmaceutical companies. And some of these companies are companies with medical devices that are paying the neurologist or other doctors. So in closing, I just want to remind you that you can heal holistically. You really can. I want you to start being your own detective. I want you to start changing your diet. I want you to start figuring out, okay, maybe I've got heavy metals. Maybe I've got parasites. Maybe I need to heal some past traumas. Maybe I need to get more sunlight. Maybe I need to ground more. Maybe I need to take more breaks from being inside all day. So these are little things that you can start doing to start healing yourself. So if you have any questions, reach out to me at info@nourishyourway.com. Until next time, you'll hear from me in the near future.